Welcome everyone to this meeting of the Standards Committee. My first as chairman, and I probably won't be a member of the authority for the next one. So it could be my first and last. So let's make it a good one. Welcome to our independent person, and everybody knows you, don't they?
I think so. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So can I first ask for apologies? We have none. The next then is the minutes of the meeting, which was held on the 2nd of December 2025. I was absent. We were asked at the authority meeting whether we could make a minor amendment to the first two items on the So I guess as a matter of record, some of the members didn't understand what it meant. So Judy, could you just have a look at that, please? Subject to a minor amendment.
Well, I think in number one, Madam Chairman, if you just put a full stop after absentia with a capital A, that more or less makes that right.
Yeah.
It does, yeah.
Full stop then again.
And in the second one, just delete the word "and" in the middle.
Yeah.
Secretaries would like to follow the votes, chair the meeting in 2nd of December.
Yeah. Are you happy with that? Okay, so no matters arising.
So we need to read.
Yes.
We accept them.
You accept the correct record. Yes. Subject to those two alterations.
Did you miss declarations of interest or something?
Declarations of interest. Does anyone have the declaration of interest? No? Fine, thank you. I'll get it right, and then everybody hearing you. So matters arising, page 1. Page 2. Okay, everyone satisfied on the matters arising? So business of urgency. To introduce any business which, by reason of special circumstances, the chairperson, after consultation with the chief executive, considers should be raised. So we did talk, Carl and I did speak last week about the fact that my chairmanship is so brief and that we will need another Secretary of State appointee on the Standards Committee, because that's set out in the rules, and that can all be dealt with at the June meeting. But I did take the liberty of mentioning it to members at the authority meeting so that people are prepared and will be able to put themselves forward for whatever roles they want to.
As you're standing down and Dominic's also.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there are 3.
Yeah, 3.
There are 3.
Until such time as the Secretary of State will just
Without taking on that.
probably they usually do.
Judy, you haven't got any knowledge about the length of time it will take to.
No, Claire has emailed the public appointments team to see where they're at, because we would have expected to have notified the advert was early. So yeah.
There's no other business of urgency that we've been notified of.
The thing is, do we assume therefore that no standards committees meetings can now take place until such time as the appointment?
Standards committee meetings don't take place monthly.
No.
The next one's.
And that's cool.
I mean,
Sorry, Stephen.
Well, you just need a Secretary of State member, so as long as one of the other 3 is prepared
Yes,
to be a member, then that's fine. We don't have to wait.
For example, at the last evening wasn't here.
No, but
So they didn't trust them.
I think it's appointed by the Secretary of State, pure Secretary of State and parish. I think, but we will orders.
Yeah, both of us. Yeah,
As
that's
I
true.
understand it, parish members can be classed as Secretary of State appointees.
The may not
I
matter.
have stepped in for other meetings where
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I've been parish member and Secretary of State.
Which explains a lot.
That does, yes. So the key thing is that people put themselves forward for the June annual meeting, and that we have, enough people who will come forward and perhaps put themselves forward for some chairman or vice chairman. And we shall see. But I will be part of that process. So business diversity. Well, having done 2 stints of 10 years with an 8-year gap in between, I feel it's dominated my life.
So
long.
you'll be back in 2030.
That's good. Yes. Public speaking. We've not been notified if anyone wants to speak today. So then we can move forward to the annual governance review and consider the Chief Finance Officer and the Solicitor Monitoring Officer's report, please.
Thank you, Chair. So this is an annual report. Firstly, a review of the annual governance that's occurred during the 2025-26 financial year. So it's a little bit early. We normally receive all the corporate reporting in the July authority meeting, but this is an advancement of pure standards. That's the first element. There's a member self-assessment, governance self-assessment, that's contained in the papers. And then the third, the approval of the annual governance statement, which actually forms part of our annual accounts, the financial statements, presented to auditors for audits. So that's just a declaration of what we are doing, what we have done in the year, and what our plans are for the coming year. It's a fairly weighty tone, so I'm going to assume that you've kind of read through and understand it. Essentially, it accords to Nolan's principles, and the good governance and local government framework as well. That's from back in 2016. But essentially, it's working through each of those sections, declaring what we have done in accordance with that, and later on what our plans are in 2026-27 to undertake further governance work, training, both in terms of our energy efficiency, regulatory elements as well. So I don't think I need to say too much more than that in terms of its kind of prudent introduction.
Okay. Does anyone have any specific questions, Stephen?
Well, I did actually. I might have raised something like this on the previous occasion, and possibly I don't think so. Well, on checklists, membership has reports. Number 16, has the membership committee been assessed against the full knowledge and skills framework and found to be satisfactory? It is the only cross in a no, well, apart from the first one. Does the authority have a dedicated yes and a no? It's always a philosophically awkward question, this one, isn't it? Because the membership of the committee isn't necessarily determined by those areas of core knowledge. So why do we include it?
It's pretty much a pro forma checklist, which is why we include it, and that question's in there. But it's, we've probably had this debate this time.
We have.
Or back in December. I can't recall the real.
I think it's to the point that it's not a problem, and that this covers all types of organisations, and this organisation isn't the type that says you can be a member of this committee, but you can't, because as we just discussed, we just need to get a membership that reflects the standing orders as opposed to knows what they're talking about. Not that we don't.
No, indeed, but it's, I suppose in a way, if it wasn't for the last 5 words and found to be satisfactory, because it rather implies it's found to be unsatisfactory.
There is a commentary below that which details the kind of the reasoning for this. So it said members of the authority and standards committee are appointed from a range of elected public bodies, or have been appointed from a definite competitive process. Members have a range of skills and professional backgrounds. Doesn't exactly answer that query, but it provide some context.
Well, look, it's just my annual query.
Were we to find that we were particularly blessed with one type of skill on the standards committee, which then led to some omissions, I think at that stage we might need to review it. But currently we have a range
But this-
and not the authority.
It's the authority.
The authority too, yeah. And DEFRA has a role in when it recruits the five.
Absolutely, it does.
You know, it must be, I can't remember, but I think the last time we recruited someone, we were looking, or DEFRA was looking for someone with, particularly with skills in conservation and the environment. So I think DEFRA has that role in balancing. It's much more difficult with local members.
Well, as I say, I mean, I won't go to them all over, but it just always strikes me as a bit of an anomaly every year when we look at it, that one gets an X, because it's not really the system which we determine the membership.
No.
It might be a number of sections, but it's not really this one.
So it really should be not applicable.
Well, that might be a better bet, to be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what we like.
yeah.
And then we can make that amendment to it.
Does
Because we do have NA elsewhere.
yes. Does anyone else want to?
So, you can be finished now.
Yeah.
On page 17, the actions for 26, 27. Now, these are, I mean, in other AGSs, these are kind of focuses on areas of weakness and things we need to do to put this basket of that.
Yeah.
But this actually kind of reads like a very summarised sort of version of the corporate strategy we were reading about earlier. Is that fair to say?
It's pretty accurate.
And it matches okay with the strategy, that's sure. Yes, and haven't done what, you know, some of them look obviously the same, some.
They're robust. It's not directly to the corporate plan actions, but it is by very nature of that. That is the action list for us to undertake. That is how we're going to grow, progress, and develop over the year.
There's one issue I would just like to touch on, which is how, when we're looking at what we're going to do in future years, do our independent members need to report on their findings on a regular basis? And we have one here today who may very well have a view on that. But, you know, what's the obligation on our independent members? Or do they feel that they're being listened to because they are able to make an annual report which is incorporated? Or should we be talking to them more regularly about their findings, and how should that run?
My understanding of the independent role is to speak when asked.
Right.
Certainly in terms of the process of assessing violations against the codes.
Yes.
I don't feel any necessary need to have an annual report. I think the authority works well as it is. It's not, the steering's so difficult at the moment.
But Adam, if you were to see something that, although not a breach of the code or anything, you thought, well, that could be done better, would you bring it to our attention?
Absolutely. And you were very clear about that when we joined. Both of us are very keen in focusing on that.
Yeah.
So yes, we would.
Would our legal advisor have any words to add to that?
No, I think it's really what you would like of that independent person. At Devon County Council, we have a slightly different structure in that we have the independent person who, we have three who are really involved in councillor complaints, and then we have co-opted members on the standards committee, and they provide those observations. They participate in the standards committee, albeit they don't formally vote, albeit they indicate their views and preferences, but they provide an annual report where they each attend a selection of meetings and then provide their observations. And it follows the same format every year in terms of the content and criteria that's being looked at. But there's no obligation to do that or to do it in a formal setting. It can be as you like it, really.
That's a much larger organisation than we are.
Yes, and I think proportionality is important.
No, but there are probably aspects that wouldn't get discussed if it weren't for those independent people. Whereas ours is, I think, as you pointed out, you will let us know.
Yes.
Sorry, Chair, this committee is a perfect forum for that to happen in. And if the situation arises, then it would be through a report here if they're not there. But we have discussed it kind of whether we do an annual report of some kind, but I don't think that was really felt necessary.
No.
At the time.
So can I just move the recommendations on page 1, subject to the amendment on page 5?
Yeah, so moved by Stephen, seconded by John, and all in favour. So we now move on to number 7, which is the Standards Committee Annual Report 2025-26.
So similar way to the previous item, this is a report for the previous financial year. The overview of the functions, kind of a measure of the complaints and compliments the authorities received and have made against it, and an update on those. A little bit about the members' code of conduct, dispensation that we've recently approved, the annual review of annual governance review that's previous paper, and also look at the training requirements for members, and that's not just in this committee but across the whole authority. You'll note that there's been very few complaints recorded. Predominantly they're around planning concerns around applications, and they're detailed in section 7.12 onwards. But kind of more positive, we have had 49 compliments received in this period, which is a continued trend with the authority, and then it's really good to see in terms of the range of activities that we've been engaging with.
John.
Section 3 said annual review of method code of conduct and code of conduct. And then it says the last changes were 15 months ago. So we ought to have another one.
But if you do an annual review, you don't necessarily change anything.
No,
That's the last
you
time
need
it
to
was
review it.
changed. Yeah.
Oh,
That's the last time it was changed.
That's the last time it was reviewed.
So that's last time.
Or was it the last time it was changed? I don't remember it being changed. Reviewed, rather. You might
Then
have
you
done.
will tell us.
Was a discussion. I remember.
We did 25.
Change.
Last changes to the member code of conduct came to effect from 1st of April 2024.
It was over a year ago. Then it must have been.
Yeah.
So can we put that forward as an agenda item for the next meeting?
Yeah.
But have some preparatory work before that meeting? Because it's not till November.
From memory, there was a change to adopt the model code of conduct that has come through, and I'm pretty sure that the change last year was to do with planning committee and just the terminology.
Yes.
I think that was tweaked. So
Yeah, there was no major change.
And there's been no other changes.
yeah, we're in line with the latest sort of model code, I believe, but still worth a review, I suppose. Yeah.
No, just that, yeah, if something like if you were a member of the public reading this and think annual 2 years, yeah.
But we did make some changes, but they were minor, but that's the last major changes. Just one word in there, major, would make all the difference. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have any points they want to raise? Any questions about the complaints?
Is there, I mean, about the one that's gone for judicial review is there any update on that, any timeline?
Oh, no. So,
Oh, let's not talk about it.
no,
It's still
You could-
awaited.
you can raise it, well, you can raise it this afternoon if you like. The plan would be, just going back to 2.3. We've changed the planning committee substitute from 10 working days to 3, but is it 3 working days or 3 days?
3 working days.
Yeah, okay.
And is everyone happy that that's working well? Chairman?
Seems to be fine.
Yeah. We're not so rigid now that you have to be replaced by a person who is in the same category as you.
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments? Do we have someone to move the recommendation? Oh, we're noting. So we actually don't need to adopt it, is that correct? Sorry, report.
Yes, I mean, I know it says we've got to discuss any member training needs 26, 27, but one of the main ones actually is having a member study tour again, starting that. So it's the first time we'll have had one this summer since before 2020.
Yeah.
So that's good.
I mean, I do think when we're talking about training needs, if we look at it more widely, the point that Stephen made in the authority meeting earlier was that we don't really get much opportunity to liaise with staff anymore. And one thing that used to happen every annual meeting was that this garden was used and a buffet was provided, sandwiches and crisps and things, and all the staff were invited to meet the members. Now, I think that is a training opportunity. It's an opportunity to meet with people in an informal setting, also for them to be able to feel they can talk to you and that they recognise you. And I think dropping that has been a bit retrograde, really. And so if we're loosely looking at training, I think that would be a very good training opportunity, particularly for newer members who've not actually bumped into anyone.
No, I agree. And as I was saying this morning, I mean, I know the ranges have all changed, but I would be hard put to recognise any of them now. And they're our first line of member of staff dealing with the public. And I find that quite embarrassing that we don't know. Well, I should also,
I agree, there's a budget for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can do it without a budget, to be honest, can't we? I mean, we'll start this formed about a social event and refreshments were provided. We could have meet the staff tours, really. We can, as part of the plan tour, we can actually go to the depot and be
It's quite good to meet everybody at the annual meeting, I just think. It's a good excuse for staff to be here and say hi. But maybe I'll discuss that with them. And also we're going to have a new intake of members. So while we're looking at training needs, we have a few new members and we're going to get some more. So
well, certainly by this time coming up to next year, of course, we'll be coming up to unitary and parish elections. I don't know if Devon are going to be having unitary elections.
There's depot elections in May 27.
Yeah. So you actually it will be until the year after.
We won't reach the year
But that's only for 2. I mean, there'll be 5 parish members and 8 Somerset members that will potentially change next year.
Well, there'll be 2. There'll be 3, 4, and there are 2 district members and 2
county members. So there'll be 2 district ones that will come up next year.
Yeah,
I think it's got to be an annual thing. We get an intake every year.
Yeah.
It's got to be an annual thing, and it's got to be not too long after they've all come, and then plan ahead for the following year when it's going to be quite a change. Is that sufficient discussion on member training, Ben?
I believe so, yes. Members are satisfied that you've.
Yeah, I mean, we're all fortunate we've been around a while and we've all been trained and we have continuous training, but I'm conscious that there are people who are way behind that.
this would help if there were a new member here.
Yes.
Or 2.
Yeah. Okay, so we don't need to do anything other than note this, is that correct? So everyone happy to note it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And we've looked at business of urgency already, so it's okay for me to close the meeting?
Let's say we appreciate your efforts as chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. The
It's been a
meeting is
pleasure
closed.
serving